Hello there, everyone. Patricia Hayes here. How are you doing today? So glad to have you joining me for Coffee Time Career Chat, the Wednesday edition. And we are still finishing up our conversation about leadership, specifically about supporting your leadership growth, is what we've been talking about for a few weeks here. And today is our last day on that topic. If you are joining for the very first time, welcome. Once again, my name is Patricia Hayes. I am an executive advisor, empowerment coach, and authentic networking strategist. And what I love to do is to help professionals, entrepreneurs, and their teams to get a grip on what it is they're trying to do, how they're trying to achieve their goals, and how they can do it in a way that's empowered and leverage their professional relationships in a way that's aligned with their values and their purpose. So, all that to say, today we are going to be talking about building forward on a strong leadership foundation. This was one of those topics that seems kind of obvious, right? Especially when you're talking about leadership, there's lots of conversations about leadership out there all the time. But when I was really kind of working through this with this series and figuring out how to tie it off, it just seemed to be the right thing. And the wording was very deliberate, right? Building forward, not just building on, but building on in a way that leaves and has some movement to it, right? That's what's really key and very important here. And so the first thing that I really wanted to make sure is laid out, but it's something that's very much assumed when you're talking about setting a foundation, is that you have to set a foundation, right? You can't move forward if there's nothing to lay things on. And so when you are setting that foundation, when it comes to your leadership growth and development, four things that really come into play. Number one for me is reflection. You guys know how I feel about reflection time. It is super important to take that time to kind of sit down, think through what it is you're doing, why you're doing it, and what it means for you specifically. And secondly, is learning, making sure that you're putting yourself in the spaces where you can continue to grow and to gain the knowledge and skills that you need in order to be able to move forward successfully. The third thing is your values. What are the values that you are going to uphold as a leader? This is one of those things that not a lot of people truly give any thought to until, like, unfortunately some crisis comes up or they're asked very directly. And so this is one of those things that I really encourage you to give some thought to, is what are the values that you want to uphold, that you want to lead with as a leader. Make sure that it becomes a very sound part of your leadership foundation. And then lastly, purpose. What's the purpose of it all? Why are you doing it? So important, because otherwise you could be, quote, calling yourself a leader. But we know that I don't believe that leadership is based on titles. There are plenty of great leaders out there who do not have a title. So let's talk about it in the context of what's your sphere of influence? Who are you modeling for? How are people coming to you to ask for support, direction? Are they leaning in because they trust you? All of those things lead to a strong leader. And as a strong leader, you want to make sure your foundation is set well and that there's not cracks in it. If there are cracks, then figure out what it is you need to do in order to fix it, because otherwise it's going to cause you damage down the road. So remember, as you're setting your foundation, think about taking that reflection time. What are you learning? What are you putting yourself in the position to learn? The values that you want to uphold as a leader, and the purpose. Why are you doing it? Why are you doing what it is that you're doing? Okay. The second main point that I wanted to lay out here is about strengthening your foundation and being deliberate about it. I know I've been using that word a lot, deliberate, but it's such a powerful word when you really think about it because, again, it means that you are going to take your time and do what needs to be done. You're not going willy-nilly all over the place. You're not just responding in the moment, right? You've given it some thought and you hopefully are going to take action accordingly. So that's what being deliberate is all about. So, how do you leverage that? How do you bring that into being when you're talking about your leadership foundation? Well, go back to those things we talked about, right? Are you being deliberate when it comes to your skill building, to your knowledge base, to empowering others, to making sure that your values and your purpose are aligned with the actions and the activities that you are taking every day? How are you building in being deliberate all along the way with each one of those steps? That's my question for you. And that's the piece I really encourage you to dig a little deeper into so that you can, again, have a strong foundation as a leader and for your leadership goals so that you can build forward, right? You don't want to just build up and then the foundation cracks and then everything falls down. We've already know there's way too many real life examples of real buildings that looks like they were sitting on a sound foundation until just the right storm comes along. And the question is your leadership foundation going to survive a storm? Wow, that's great. Let's talk about that one again. Is your leadership foundation going to survive a storm? Because when you've taken the time to do what needs to be done, you can get shaken. You may have some major upsets, but at its core, who you are and what you represent and how you present in the marketplace, in the workplace, in your community as a leader will stand up. All right? Because guess what? Tough times will come. Things will happen. People will challenge your integrity. They will question your values. They'll question your purpose. Why are you doing whatever it is you're doing? But the question for you is when that storm comes, how are you going to stand up to it? And it's really important that you've taken the time to set the foundation as we've discussed, and then also to be deliberate in strengthening it to make sure that you've added the extra supports that you need in order to be a great leader, in order to have a sound foundation for your leadership as you build forward, as you grow. Okay. All right. And then the third thing here is you want to make sure that you take a look ahead in anticipation of where you want to grow as a leader. Now, that's a mouthful, right? But it really does. We're back to this reflection piece. Where do you want to go? How do you want to get there? Who do you want to bring along for the ride? Or whose coattails are you going to ride in order to get there, all in a very positive way, right? Not in a way of being disrespectful or using and abusing people, but in acknowledging the opportunities that are presented to you and how you leverage them, how you utilize them, how you engage others to support you as you move forward with them. These are all the things that will help you to take a look ahead as you anticipate kind of where you're headed. Now, you may not always know exactly where you're headed, right? We don't. Things happen all along the way, sometimes great things, sometimes not so great things. So it's not even about knowing exactly what's coming, but it is about knowing that, okay, I've taken these steps. Ideally, I would like to get to, if you've taken A, B, and C, ideally, I'd like to get to E. I don't know how I'm going to get through D to get there, right? And that's all great and that's fine. But if you don't take the look and acknowledge it, then you could wrongfully be trying to jump through many more letters of the alphabet or through many more hoops that you're not ready for. And so that's what I'm talking about when it comes to what are you looking towards doing? What are you anticipating? And are you making sure that you're laying the foundation that you need that will support you to achieve that end goal? And here's the thing, I said end goal, but we know that this is a journey, not a destination. So there are guideposts along the way. There are places that you will get to and it'll be celebration time. Absolutely. But then you know that okay, it's time to move to the next guidepost, to the next level. All right. Until you get to some whatever point it is where you're like, okay, I've accomplished X or I've gotten to where I want to be with Y, whatever those things are. But recognizing that it's a journey all along the way and that you really want to be mindful of where you're going and how you're getting there so that not just so that you can end up somewhere down the road, but ideally, great leaders leave the way for others. They leave a trail behind, or maybe they even reach back and pull them up so that others can grow and develop as well. Because that's really what we're talking about. Ultimately, you're building a sound foundation so that you hopefully can leave a great legacy behind for others to follow, for others to step into, as you mentor someone, let's say, as you help someone else to develop and to grow. So these are all the things that are a part of that leadership foundation that you may be in the midst of creating or revising or deciding what exactly do I want to do, right? Most of the times we don't have to start over, but every once in a while you might. Sometimes we get to a point and you're like, you know what, this doesn't work for anymore. So I'm going to like start from scratch. When in reality, you're not starting from scratch. You're starting from your last point of not just growth, but learning, the learning process that you've engaged in, and how that can feed where you're going next as you revisit, as you rebuild, as you build forward in setting a sound leadership foundation for your professional career, for your community building, for however you want to move forward in your market space and in your personal life. All right. So those are just a few, tidbits I wanted to toss out there as we're thinking about that, as you're working through, finally going through supporting your leadership growth. Think about those things. Think about the things we've shared over the course of the last few weeks about how you can support your leadership growth in a good, strong way and be deliberate about it, of course, always. So let's do a quick refresher there. We were talking about seeking growth actively, not passively. Again, okay, being very cognizant of where you are and what you're doing. About making sure you keep learning on your agenda. This is super important for leaders. We never get enough. There's always something new to learn or something new to grow towards. Okay. Taking that reflection time and how important that is as leaders so that we can grow not just ourselves, but we can grow those who we are in community with and who we are responsible for in whatever capacity that might be. Okay. So all of those things feed into this about how you can support your leadership growth for the long term and not just quick fixes. None of this is a quick fix, right? But you would be surprised at how fast time flies and you look up and something that you presumed was, oh, this is going to take too long, and next thing you know, it's 3 or 6 months down the road. And so the real question is, where do you want to be in 3 months? Where do you want to be in 6 months? Where do you want to be in 12 months? What do you need to do in right now in order to get there and to be there in the space that you really want? Okay. All of that super valuable. I encourage you to pull out a journal, get your electronic notes, whatever you use, and do the work, do the thought process. Um, engage in some great conversations. Pick up some coffee or later in the afternoon, a little something else, and talk to some people about it and what it means. All right. Foster the conversation so that you can all grow towards where you want to be as a leader in your workspace and in your community. All right. So it's been fantastic as always to engage with you here. I hope that you will be able to join me on, I believe it's next Tuesday, November 9th, for the last live networking masterclass for 2021. You can get registered for it at patriciavhayes.com. It is free. If you cannot attend with us in person at 11:30 a.m., then make sure you register, because when you register, then anyone who's registered will get a copy of the recording, and you'll have access to it for about 5 days after the event. Okay. So make sure you do that. If you have any questions, or if you would love to set up some time for a consult, just reach out, DM me, email me, and let's get you on the calendar. I would love to have a chit chat about what it is you are looking to build towards in 2022 and determine if we're a good fit for making it happen. All right. Take care, everyone. And I hope you have a fantastic day. Take care. Bye bye.